Hello, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are taking a look at the various challenges that I've been working through from my reading list for the last month. It is officially September, so I wanted to jump right into this, even though I still am sick, as you can tell by my voice. But unfortunately, I stay sick for a while when I get sick. That's just kind of how my body acts. A couple different chronic illnesses and things like that. Super fun. But I am doing okay. I just am still recovering. So I wanted to get into this. I've actually been having a lot of fun planning my September while I've been sick. So yay. And reading a couple of extra books, because of course one does that when they are on the couch sick. But let's go ahead and jump into the overview. So we're starting with HRCYED, of course, because that is the longest one that I am currently working through. Statistics for the month just in general for all the books that I read, which I guess this could technically be before we get into HRCYED for the statistics portion, but I'm putting it into the HRCYED section because Q did create the template that I'm currently using to track my books. I started using it in July when HRCYED 2.0 started, and so all of the statistics and everything that you see here are from her spreadsheet, with a couple of small changes on a few of these ones you see later on in the things, but all the statistics themselves and the graphics were from her and her spreadsheet. So that's why I put it into this section. But anyway, in August, I read 64 books, 64 items. 49 of those were books, one was manga, one graphic novel, one anthology, 8 short stories, and 4 novellas. All of them were new to me, no rereads. 81% of them were audiobooks, 2% were paperback, and 17 were ebook. The majority at over 80% were adult, but I did have 6% young adult, 9% middle grade, and 3% children. There was a pretty wide spread when it comes to time. As you can see, I had everything from 1943 all the way till almost present in 2024. Oh wait, actually there was one in 1843. I forgot about that one. So yeah, there's a pretty big spread, but the majority of them, as you can see, are from the 2000s to 2024. Penguin still holds the largest section of the graph when it comes to the publisher that I am reading the most frequent. Still finding it interesting to look at all the different publishers that are actually falling into these larger ones as I go through. Sorry. And surprisingly, I read a significant amount of nonfiction. Sorry, compared to other ones this month. All right. Sorry about that. I had to grab some water there. So statistics, obviously most everything I read, as you can tell from the map, was in the US for this month, but I did have a couple of other places around the world, which was always fun. I usually find those ones pretty interesting. And it looks like Massachusetts was the most visited state for this month. Obviously, Challenge Yourself was going to be the most because there are 51 prompts that you can be put in there for that one particular one for mine, because I'm doing 50 states plus Washington, D.C. So I ended up getting 12 just because I was able to find that a lot of the ones I was reading that did happen to be taking place in the U.S., like you can see, there's a pretty big diversity when it comes to which states were being utilized. A lot of these were being utilized for that plus another prompt, but not all of them. Second biggest one was the rainbow, which is almost done. So close. All right, so as you can tell from our bingo card, we now have 4 boxes that are completely filled. Disability challenge, the last 10 years, and I know that says 11 of 12. You only had to technically do 11 of them. I will probably still do 2026, which is why I made it 11 of 12, but technically it is completed. Around the world, just sort of that one I could have also stopped at 6 of 7, but I did do the bonus, so now we are completely done with that one. And Become the Avatar, that one is another one where there's the option to do an additional 4 prompts. I am doing those ones, but I have officially completed this one. I am actually at 5 of 8 if you include the additional 4, but I'm leaving that at just 4 on this one, and then I'll just do those as sort of extra bonus, if you will. All right, so let's jump right in. Oh, I forgot. This month we did 27%, which brings us up to 53%, and that's adjusted for the addition of readathon books. I don't know why this broke, but essentially it was just showing that there was an addition of 18. There's a thing here, 18 prompts, which is why it messed up. And I had to adjust everything up just a little bit because I have decided which readathon that I am doing. All right, getting into by the hundreds, I got 3 completed for this month. First one being the 100s, which was Body in the Library, which I rated 3 stars. And then both my 400s and 500s book, I rated a 4-star. The Surgeon by Tess Gerritsen, which was, I believe, the first one in that series. I have read 3 or 4 so far in this series, and I plan on finishing the series out. And then Onyx Storm, which was one of the ones that I'm reading with my husband, which hopefully we will get to chat about tonight because I finished that one right at the very end of August, and then I have been sick, so we haven't really had a chance to chat about it all that much because I've been trying to like sequester myself away so he doesn't get sick, but unfortunately it sounds like he is probably getting sick anyway, so we'll probably have time to chat about it. I do have options picked out for 6 and 7, but I don't believe they're going to fit into what I can handle in September. So feel free to pass on options that you think would be really great for those ones. I have one that may potentially be long enough to be a 600 for September. That's on my like holds list from the library, but I don't know that for a fact, and we'll see. I haven't got a 24-hour readathon picked out yet, so we're gonna skip on through. Subgenres, I got 2 completed. I completed 2. Barbarian Alien, which is the second one in that series. It's the Ice Planet Barbarian series, and yeah, I mean it's a 3-star. It is a standard alien romance caught on another planet, and somehow the humans and aliens can make babies, you know, which is interesting that is possible from like a scientific side. They don't even get into that. Just it can be, and there's a symbiote that can decide whether or not you are compatible, and it's never wrong. And seeing how these so far the first 2, neither one of them really liked the partner that was picked out by this symbiotic parasite. I guess, is it a symbiote or is it a parasite? Because I would originally want to say it's a parasite, but I believe they call it symbiote because maybe it is a symbiote. I guess it would be a symbiote because they live in harmony. So yeah, there's a symbiote. Anyway, there's a whole bunch of these. I've only read a couple at this point, and there aren't ones that I'm probably going to gravitate towards regularly, but they're nice for a fun, like, I need a diversion situation more than I'm just going to devour all of the series, if that makes sense. Onyx Storm also fit onto this category as well for its second prompt, so we will move along. Didn't do anything for series Stairwell. And I did read The Thing About Jellyfish and Clara and the Sun. Another thing you'll notice is that I sort of rearranged this one because I have to get one in every category, but it doesn't necessarily have to be what it was last time. So the ones I had originally thought I might end up doing, I decided I already have several other ones that aren't being used for a second prompt that I had picked out for this month, which specifically was the thing about jellyfish and Clara and the Sun. Clara and the Sun I was reading for a science fiction book club that I'm in, and the thing about jellyfish was just, I think it was on a young adult and middle grades book club that I'm in, but it wasn't one that was supposed to be read for this month. It was sort of, I'm behind, and it was one of the ones I was trying to get caught up on, and I thought it was really well done. I give it 4 stars, as you can see. And so I was like, oh, the little graphic says that it's a National Book Award. So I started digging into finding out what else had an award. And I was like, oh, Across the Green Grass Fields has one. And so does Clara in the Sun. Interesting. So I meant to make this one over here, Across the Green Grass, bright purple as well. But Left Hand of Darkness and Across the Green Grass Fields are 2 that I added to this category that weren't necessarily here before, but I moved them over here because I had an extra spot on like a second prompt it could go on to, and I wanted to sort of fill this one in a little bit more. But both of these guys got added here. I read them this month. I really liked the thing about jellyfish. I thought, like I said, I just thought it was really well done. It's about grief and processing that as a middle school aged child, and what that can look like. I thought it was interesting because they had a bunch of different topics about like what it is to be growing up, and there were a lot of moments where I was like, I could see myself in this child, and I don't know if that's because I'm neurodivergent, and a lot of the things in there were definitely neurodivergent coded, specifically autism coded, in my opinion. And I was like, oh, that is my experience, and that is interesting and eye-opening in some cases. And I was just like, I gotta sit with that for a little bit. And then Clara in the Sun took me a little bit longer to get through, which is why it got 3 stars instead of 4. But it was also really well done. The only thing I didn't, well, once it was necessarily really well done, it was well done. The thing I didn't really love about Clara in the Sun is that this supposedly very, very smart, artificial intelligent robot creature, I guess you could say she is a robot, did not learn anything, it seemed like, in months. It can learn everything about facial expressions and all of this stuff, and about its family and the interactions and how these small little tells and the way that they speak and their eyes move and things like that are all indicative of different emotional complexities and things like that. But it did not learn basic things about its environment, about the world, and it didn't make sense why those weren't things that were taught to it before it ever got to its human family. Because they did teach it some things, but like just for the safety of the family, it didn't make sense why they didn't teach it like how machinery works and what is pollution and what is the sun, like just general, like it made sense for the story and how that was going to flow and everything else. But the robot, in my opinion, stayed very naive and very innocent for longer than made sense. I started getting a little bit annoyed partway through it, but I did understand it, and I liked that she got to maintain her innocence and everything, and in opposition to some of the other characters in the book. But I don't want to get too deep into it because I don't want to give spoilers. But like, that was the reason it got 3 instead of 4, because I was a little annoyed by that little section there. So those are those 2. Moving on, I read my first Murderbot Diaries book, All Systems Red, 4 stars. It was really short. I was expecting it to be longer. I kept seeing it pop up in feeds saying like, you have to read the Murderbot's diaries. You have to read them. They're amazing. All this stuff. And I was like, these must be like full on thick novels. Nope. I read this one in like a couple hours. It was great. But anyway, 4 stars. I will probably read some more of them. Maybe the first one is the shortest. I don't know. I haven't looked at the other ones yet. But I put this on my husband's suggested. We have like we start a Goodreads, and I created like a bookshelf for him. And every now and again, like he'll go in and he'll say, okay, what books do you think I should read? And I'll read off all the ones I've gone there, and then I'll delete them off the list. And he'll put them on his TBR, and then he'll go through and read and see if any of them sound interesting. Anyways, I put that into my Goodreads shelf for him to take a look at because I was like, I think you would like this. I enjoyed it. Other ones that I liked, Red Queen. I feel like parts of this trope have been done many, many times, but I really liked how the different tropes sort of interacted with each other and turned into something a little bit different than the others. I did not expect, based on the tropes it was, for the ending to be quite how it turned out. I thought that would be in book 2 at a minimum, and I was just like, whoa, okay, we're going there now. And so if you can surprise me, you get a higher star count usually. So I think that if it had ended sooner, I probably would have given it 3 stars. But because those last, like, I don't know how many chapters were in there, and it all kind of like wrapped into where that cliffhanger into the next book was, and just how that turned the corner so well, and I liked it. So I moved it to a 4. And then I read The Mephisto Club, which I believe is number 4 in that series. It's either number 3 or number 4. And that's the Rizzoli Niles, the surgeon, which I mentioned earlier. Consistently staying at about a 3 for me. There may have been one that was a 4, but I think they're all pretty much staying at a 3. Okay, last 10 years. This is one where I kind of pushed to finish it because I had several of them already like fit in, and I was like, you know what? Let's just finish it. So as you can see, Barbarian Alien 2015, and honestly, that is why I chose Barbarian Alien in the first place, because I was looking for a 2015 because I wanted to finish it. So I popped it in here, and then on the other one, I switched out what was originally as a potential on that one for Barbarian Alien. Steel Scars by Victoria Aveyard is actually a short story related to the Red Queen, which was the one I just talked about a minute ago. And so I popped that in here for 2016. Diamond Fire is part of the, I believe, Hidden Legacy. Yes, Hidden Legacy series. It is a novella, and I think it's number 3.5, if I remember right. But I did enjoy that one. It was a 3-star. I tend to like the longer ones a little bit better in her writing, just because she can get a little bit deeper into the story, and the stories have more of the parts that I really enjoy. But I did like the book. Word Slut, 5 stars. It is, I think, the first nonfiction for this month that I did, and just in general, not on this slides, but the first one I did. And I may have actually put it as my yellow, but that was the original reason I put it on my list in the first place. And I was like, that sounds interesting. Yellow books, right? And Feminist Guide to Taking Back the English Language. I loved it. It was great. It talks about just the English language in general, and how some of the times the words that we use are there because of politics, and how women and their usage of the same phrases and words can be looked upon differently versus men, and the statistics and studies and all kinds of fun things. I don't want to go too deep into it in this, but adored, loved, would probably read again just because I feel like I read it as an audiobook, and I feel like if I read it again, I'd want to read it um, maybe as an audiobook with the paperback or whatever version, hardback, ebook, something, just so that I can take in even more of the data because I I feel like there was so much that I probably missed out on fully downloading into my brain when I went through it. And then for 2020, we added Hardline, 4 stars. I really liked it. Romance. I don't. Yeah, I've gotten a little bit longer than I planned to, so I'm gonna move on. Another Tess Gerritsen for a TV show. I chose Rizzoli Isles for my TV show, as you can tell, and the first 2 books in this series are basically in the first season of the show, so that's the way I went with that. And then A Christmas Carol for the play. Oop, sorry about that. I finished out Disability Challenge with an ADHD book called ADHD is Awesome by Penn and Kim Holderness. I gave it a 3-star. It was okay. It wasn't a ton of additional information that I didn't already know, but it was a good sort of like first-hand perspective on what that looks like for them. And then I chose Darn It All, which was the 3rd book in the All Access novel series for my last choice, and I gave that one a 4-star. I still think the first book in the series is the best, but I did enjoy this one. All right, so I kind of jumped the gun a little bit on my Hispanic Heritage Month choice, and I chose Next Best Fling. It became available to me on my library, and I was like, well, I could put it off till next month, or I could read it right now. And I really would like to read a novel, or a romance novel right now, so I grabbed it. And I probably should have waited until September or October, but since I'm not doing the points, and it doesn't have to be done in the month unless you're doing the points, I went ahead and just jumped in and did it. 4 stars. I enjoyed it. I'm sure there are some things that I didn't love about it, but generally I thought it was fun. And I gave it 4 stars, therefore I really liked it. I didn't love the version of Grimm's Fairy Tales that I read. This is not the right. I couldn't find a good graphic for this one. A picture of the one that was from my library did not exist. Like I looked everywhere, and I thought about maybe screenshotting like my library one, but it came out too fuzzy. It wouldn't work. So just the version I got is not this version, and I wasn't a fan of it. I feel like the version I got was watered down. It was supposed to be a translated copy, and it was not the stories. I mean, it felt like it was definitely watered down and made more for children than the originals were. So I was a little bit disappointed in that. But the actual stories themselves and everything else was fine. So I gave it 3, but I really was hoping to get some of the like original, all the gory details stories and that I remembered from the last time I had read some of the tales that are in the anthology, and they just didn't have all the details, and I was a little sad about it. But otherwise, it was fine. And then I read The Little Prince for my French choice for translation. Finished Around the World by doing Africa for Women. When Women Ruled the World by Kara Cooney. Gave it that one 3 stars. And I did the second Sailor Moon manga for Asia, 3 stars. I moved or added for a second prompt Blood Fever for Europe, and that was a 4-star read from last month. It didn't have a second prompt. I went through and tried to see if I had missed anything. So you see a couple of these bright purple ones. And then Hardline for Antarctica. I actually really liked this one. I was surprised. It had a little bit more thriller aspect in some parts of it, and yes, there definitely it was a romance, but they also had a little bit of like mystery and crime solving, and yeah, I think it was fun. I liked it. So if you're looking for an Antarctica book, grab this one. I think it was good. So I wanted to wait till we got to Antarctica to talk about it. That's why I sort of skipped it over a minute ago, because I was like, this is the one that I would probably say read it for this prompt, not necessarily for the other one, but I liked it. 4 stars. And most of the time when I read a romance book, it's a 3-star. It doesn't necessarily get to be a 4 or 5-star unless it has other things other than romance, just as an FYI. That's my preference. Sometimes like a paranormal romance might get me to a 4, but usually it's got to be like romantasy or romance and a thriller, romance and a mystery romance. It just pure romance is very rarely go straight to 4 stars, which is why that All Access is sort of above and beyond. And same for some of Ali Hazelwood's stuff, and which is why I read her pretty much whenever, because I really like the disability and neurodivergent sort of representation, and the stories are really good, and so they tend to get higher ratings from me. But most of my romance reads are going to stay probably at like a 3, potentially a low 4, but it's usually not like a full-on like 4 and rarely a 5. Just that tends to be what I look at. I don't know why. That just, yeah. I'm also a mood reader, and maybe that's maybe I'm reading most of the romances when I need a mood boost, and that's taking that sort of messes with the statistics and why it's getting lower numbers. I don't know. Let me know what your thoughts are on that one, but that tends to be my mood boost. Cat palette cleanser. All right. So again, these ones don't have the purple background. They have the check marks because I didn't want to change the background because they're already color coded. But anyway, Body Double, which was another one of the Rizzolian Isles. Loki, A Bad God's Guide to Being Good, is a middle grade novel, fairly short. Essentially, Loki is sent to Earth because he is being naughty, and he has to be inside the body of a middle schooler and prove that he can be good and he can learn. And he's been given a guardian, and Thor comes with him in the body of another middle schooler who is his brother. And Loki does not necessarily learn his lesson the way that they anticipate it, because it's Loki, right? It's very, very true to who Loki is in that manner, in that fashion. And shenanigans ensue, and yeah, it was a short, fun read. It came up when I was looking for orange, and I was like, that looks fun. And I do have in-laws who are middle schoolers, so I try to pick up a few more middle grade books than I necessarily would, just because then I can discuss those books with them. So you will see middle grade reads and young adult reads in my book reads, just in general, quite a bit more often because of that. Like I wouldn't normally just pick up middle grade books, but because I want to discuss with them, they get put into the routine, the TBR. Yeah, they get put into that rotation. That's the word I was looking for originally. The rotation more often. And then also YA, because some of the times that they will read YA books as well. So I read a book that I think I'm going to have to read again for a different challenge, called, well, I read The Graduate, but that was the 3rd book. I'm trying to remember what the first one was called. It was the Scalamancy series, but that was because of one of my in-laws. And that was one of their summer readings last year, and I ended up reading the entire trilogy, and it was lovely. Will read again. I wish the 3rd one actually did not end there, and they had a 4th one, and the very ending was changed a little bit, but I understood why they did it. But yeah, other than that, enjoyed. Anyways, moving on. We already talked about Word Slut, Tess Gerritsen. That's another one there. Same 3 stars, like I mentioned. Christmas Land, 3-star Christmas themed romance. It was cute. It wasn't your standard Christmas romance, but it was fun. I liked it. I think I liked it more because it had a twist. There were definitely lots of obvious tropes, you know, you walk into them kind of situation, but I still liked it. Pumpkin Spice Cafe also has some of those romance tropes that I was talking about, but it was really cute. I honestly thought this was going to be more like fall vibes cozy. Nope. I did not realize it was a romance going into. I should have. It's the season to fall in love. It's right there. But I did not see that when I was looking at it on the app. It just said the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, and I was like, that looks autumnal and maybe cozy romance or cozy mystery, not cozy romance. And then it started, and I was like, oh, this is romance. Okay, I could do that. But I went in to start reading it thinking it was going to be like cozy mystery or cozy fiction in general. And nope, 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 nope. Definitely romance. All right, added 2 new ones to the quote and then moved one we got last month on here that I missed that there's the word on and I did not have a second prompt, so I put it over here. Find your people, and I did it. Both of them are nonfiction, or I don't know how you feel about I did it, if whether you think that is nonfiction or not, but I would say these are both nonfiction, and both of them were 3 stars. Or this one's 3 stars. Find Your People was only 2 star. Sorry. They were just I didn't love this one, and I don't know if that's just because it didn't vibe with me personally. I don't think it was poorly done. It wasn't for me. Wasn't my jam. All right, I only had one for spooky, and that was Under Lock and Key, which also was my pun for later, you'll see. But that one is a romance taking place in Scotland, and obviously you can tell Loch Ness Monster was at play there. Oh, you can't really tell because Can I make myself smaller? Temporarily? Lock and Key. Anyways, okay, I'll move myself back over. Okie dokie. This one is completed. I read Sweet and Deadly, 3 star, but barely. It just didn't hold my attention. Very low star on the 3 star. I usually like Charlene Harris's books more than I liked this one, so I was surprised. But it wasn't my fave of hers. And then Can't Spell Treason Without T, I thought was absolutely lovely. It is cozy fantasy, and I will definitely be reading the next one in this series. I already read the little teaser, I guess you'd say, about the next one, and the first whatever chapter, prologue, whatever that was available to read, and I was like, yes, must get that one. But I can't fit it in my TBR right now. It's gonna have to be later. And then I put Diamond Fire on here from before. We'd already talked about that one as its second prompt. Readathon, I have picked that one, but we're not talking about that one at the moment. All right, then we get to animals. I chose a certain kind of starlight because I already had to read that one for another challenge, and I gave it 4 stars, which was super surprising to me. I did not think I was going to like this one as much as I did, but it just crawled in and curled up, and I was like, I know I'm gonna cry at some point, and that's okay. It was just one of those great, feel good, feel sad, but it's okay kind of books. I really enjoyed it. All right, Stoneheart is technically a novella in the Dark Olympus universe about Medusa, and I gave it 3 stars. It wasn't my favorite of her books, but it was also shorter, and I tend not to love novellas as much as full lengths in general because I don't feel like the authors have the space to really get as down into the nitty-gritties of the stories as they do, but I did enjoy it. And then I read Dylan Mulvaney's Paper Doll Notes from a Late Bloomer, and I gave that a 3 star. And then another 3-star for Sounds Fake But Okay, which is asexual and aromantic perspectives on love, relationships, sex, and pretty much anything else, by Sarah Costella and Kayla. I don't remember. Kaseka, is that what that says? I can't. I'm sorry. I can't pronounce your last name correctly if I said that wrong, which I probably did. So I thought they were good. They weren't really, on both of them, they weren't like my cup of tea necessarily. But I think that's the same for this type of novel in general, where it's stories, people's stories back to back. It's like this story about this thing and then that story about that thing. I should know exactly what that is called, but I am sick right now and I am so sorry about that. But yeah, it wasn't really what I was feeling at the time. But yeah, I think they both did a good job. All right, and then BIPOC, another one of those ones where I was like, you know what? I've got nothing on here. And I got to almost the end of August, and I was like, I've got a bunch of stuff that have not a second prompt on them. I bet you some of these authors fit into the categories. And here's where I've got, I guess, some questions. How we are defining BIPOC, because when I went to search, there were multiple definitions. And so specifically, my Tess Gerritsen, Eiko Kodono, and Kazuo Ishiguro, I wasn't sure if they would fit here or not, or if they fall into a different category, because sometimes I was seeing yes and sometimes I was seeing no, depending on what author was speaking. Some would say this person, yeah, so I wasn't sure. Let me know what your thoughts are. I do know Gabriela Gamez describes herself as BIPOC, at least according to one author bio by, or at least an author discussion post at one point. It said she describes herself as the Hano specifically, and that and fits there. And then I read Trail of Lightning, which is a 5-star read. I am going to read the next one. I flew through this one, and it was ebook, and I flew through it. I could not put it down. Will read the next one, so pick that one up. This was my surprising 5-star. I've had that on my TBR list since last year, and I keep being, oh, I'll get to it, I'll get to it, I'll get to it. I should have read it last year. It was phenomenal. Anyway, let me know what your thoughts are. Like, I don't want to put things here that shouldn't be here, but authors are contradicting themselves. Or at least authors of articles about what is defined, what definitions are not being consistent. And I don't want to be incorrect here, but I don't know the answer. So anyway, let me know. Oh. All right, Irresistible Urge to Fall for the Enemy. I went 4 stars, but honestly, it was a low 4 stars. I almost gave it a 3-star. It was good, but it was not, I didn't think it needed to be as long as it was for the amount of content that was actually there. I thought there was a lot of superfluous content that didn't necessarily need to be there for the amount of character growth that was included. Now, it could be that in the second book, some of that comes in and it's sort of like, oh, that's why that was there. I don't know. But it did feel a little superfluously on some of those things, and it could have been a little bit shorter and still had the same amount of impact, in my opinion. So, anyways. Challenge yourself. Almost all of these fit into another category, so I'm not going to get too deep into them. I added Back to the Bedroom on here for Janet Ivanovich, as you can see from a last month's read. It's bright purple. I realized, ooh, you fit there. Moved her on over. I'm no philosopher, but I got this. But I got thoughts. Kirsten Chenoweth. again, 3-star, like I said. It's that style. I'm just not, I don't love it, that style. But I think all 3 of the ones that were in that style were really, really good. I just didn't, it's not my favorite style, I guess you could say. I think everything else we've almost talked about, or we will talk about. Hellbent, 4-star. Really enjoyed it. It's the second book in the series. I will continue to read the series as it comes out. Shadows was the prequel novella to Onyx. Onyx? I think it's Onyx. And 3 stars. It wasn't my favorite of. I only read the first one, but it was okay. I feel like it was written probably after the first one, and they're trying to give some backstory, and they purposefully didn't want to give some things away, so they didn't go into it too deeply. And I would have liked a little bit more, especially at the end there, about like what actually happened. They left a lot of that open to guessing, which is probably, like I said, on purpose, because I haven't read the other ones in the series yet, but my guess is that that comes back later, and they're going to be like, whoa, he's not actually, or whoa, he's been captured, he's not actually, like, and I don't want to, I don't want to go too deep into it, but that's my guess. I've only read the first one and the prequel now, so far, that's the guess. And then Forsaken by Night, very short novella as well for that series. I have not read anything from that series, but I looked up books that take place in Wisconsin, and it was suggested, so I picked it up. It was okay. 3 stars. All right, nonfiction. I believe we've talked about almost all of, no, we've only talked about half of these. Well-Trained Wife, I gave it 4 stars. It made me feel things, definitely. As someone who did not live the exact same life as she did, I lived a similar life as she did. And it definitely touched some things, and it made me very glad that I did some of the things I was able to get out before some of the things happened, specifically like before I had children, because I my heart broke for her so many times, and I was like, that's, yeah, I don't want to get too much into it because I will be very upset. But 4 stars. Read, if you have the mental wherewithal to get into that kind of a headspace. She goes into what it was like to live in that kind of an environment before she was able to leave, and then right as she left, and the danger that came for her, and everything around that. I do suggest it. And then I read a self-help book called The Lazy Genius Way. I gave it 4 stars. Self-help books rarely get a 4-star for me, but I thought this one was done well. It was anecdotal. That's the word I was looking for earlier. Anecdotal. I was looking for anecdotal, and now it comes. Anyway, it was anecdotal, but it also had key takeaways you could take from it. I didn't like every single one, and I didn't necessarily need every single thing, but the parts that I was able to take from it, I still thought were really good, and I thought it was interesting to combine those 2 things together in the way that she did. I'm not going to say I've never seen it before, but it was just done in a kind of nice way. I liked it. So get 4 stars. All right. Haven't gotten into any of Q's reviews at this point. And I mentioned pun and title for Secret Prompt. All right, Escape with Dolly. This is our ABCs. I got the Onyx Storm, like I mentioned last time. I was going to be Rebecca Yarros. My Y is completed for author. And for title, I did not complete anything because I still have not got Xenophobia. Or Xenophobia. Not Xenophobia. My goodness gracious. Xenocide. That's the word. Xenocide, by Orson Scott Card. I am not planning to read that one in October or in September either, just because I have so many books that I have to read for other challenges because September is a packed month. So, and I'll get into that when I talk about my September planning, which I'll do on another video because this is going to get really, really long. So I don't want to get too long. I'll do a separate video for that, but I'm just not going to have time for that one. August, I did choose color in the title, which is All Systems Red, which we talked about earlier. Enjoyed it. 4 stars. Again. Reading challenges. Okay, so last time I said that this one was complete. I was wrong. I checked it as complete in my brain because I only had one book to read and it was a required to read before end of year, so I didn't have to think about it. And so I went through and I created the entire thing here. I'm not going to go into them because I'm just going to say, hey, they are here. I did make the thing, but I am missing the fiction genre discussion. Historical fiction. It didn't fit. Historical fiction genre discussion. And it will end up being a book that I'm hopefully going to finish in September, and then this will actually be completed. But yes, I wanted to clear that up, that yes, I did make a mistake, and I have fixed it, and I created the sheets now, so they're there. It took a while to do, but it's now accurate, and that is the name of the game. Accuracy and honesty, right? Monthly selection. I did get the January selection done. I still have not done the August or July or a whole bunch of the other ones because I haven't gotten to them yet or gotten them from the library. But I'm working my way through them. Finished one. So I'm just sort of, instead of thinking about them as a month, I think mentally I'm gonna have to think about them as like completion of a whole rather than how many months behind am I, how close to being completion. So I am at 3 of 12 right now. But I haven't obviously heard all of them yet. There's still 3 that haven't been announced, but 3 of 12. This one I am closer to being done, but no additional ones this month. On the thrillers, historical fiction, still haven't done any of those. I'll try, guys, I promise. Romance, I didn't complete any there either. Same for fantasy, though I do have some planned for September that will be available finally from the library. Buddy reads, again, I do have another couple of ones from this list that should hopefully be able to make it into September. I'm waiting to find out. Obviously, if there's like one that's like on the cusp, but whether I'll be able to do it or not, but we'll see. Saturday Book Club. I said I wasn't going to worry about this one, but unfortunately, I am a completionist who cannot help herself. So I went ahead and created a sheet for it. And I plan on at least giving it a go. Well, why not? I mean, if I fail, it's fine. I'll have read some new books, and it'll be fun. 52 Book Club. The main challenge is completed. I did double check that one. I was not mentally thinking it was done, and it wasn't. It was done. The Connections Challenge. Didn't finish anything else yet. But I should get this one in September. I believe it will be available from the library. So hopefully we'll have a change next month. These are till December though, so I'm not, and there's not that many as you can see, so it's not a big deal. Though the Connections one was supposed to be done in September, so if I can get all 3 of those done in September, that'd be great, but I'm not pushing myself to finish them, if that makes sense, because it doesn't matter. It's a mini. It can be done pretty much whenever. Okay, PopSugar. First page, I still have 2 to go. And second page, I did complete 1 on this one. Overlooked Woman in History. I will be completing this space in September. And I know that for a fact because I started that book, but I did not finish it in time to check it off. So therefore, cannot check it off yet. And that is the end. I will be doing a September planning as well as a reveal of my character for the Aurelian here in the next little while. I'm not sure if I'll be able to record this week, depending on how I'm feeling and everything else, but I wanted to at least get this one out, and then I will be recording the, at least I'm going to try to record my September planning tomorrow, and then the Aurelian character and my sort of online version of a journal and all of that will be probably whenever else I can fit, maybe on like Wednesday or Thursday, maybe over the weekend. No, not over the weekend. This weekend's crazy, but I will do my best to get everything recorded and out as quickly as possible. Like I said, this month is crazy, but I want to at least get like one ish out every other week at a minimum, just so that I'm on a good schedule with you guys, and make sure to get the end of month and planning out pretty close together at the beginning of every month. At least that's the goal for now. So let me know if you have any suggestions for the empty spots, or any of the questions that I asked along the way, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.